Welcome to Ed Leader with your host, Dr. Rob Jackson. Educational leadership is an ever-evolving opportunity to make a real and lasting difference in the lives of students, parents, and the community. And now, here's your host, Dr. Rob Jackson.
Hi friends, welcome to the Ed Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jackson, and I want to thank you for spending time with me today. I hope that the podcast is adding value to you and your work. It has been and is my attempt to give back to the profession that has given so much to me. It's not sponsored and there are no commercials. It is simply, I hope, an opportunity to learn from and with other leaders as each of us seek to grow as leaders. If you have not, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast on your podcast player and share it with your network of colleagues and friends. The Ed Leader Podcast community continues to grow worldwide because of your kind words and positive ratings. Remember, you can find show notes, links to references that are cited during each episode, and find each of the previous regular episodes and the 3 special leadership series at drrobjackson.com. Speaking of continuing to grow, let's get to it. The podcast has been on a bit of an unexpected hiatus as I've navigated a change in school districts that I'll share a bit more about in just a moment. I apologize for the time away, but like you, my first and foremost priority must always be to the students and teammates I serve. For the new year, I have some amazing guests lined up, another episode for the Science of Reading series ready to roll, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful 2023. You know, New Year's resolutions have been around for a while, over 4,000 years in fact. According to History.com, the Babylonians were the first to make resolutions as they planted their crops, launching a new year. Now, I have no idea how well the Babylonians did with sticking to their resolutions 4,000 years ago, but in modern history at least, in my experience, it seems that resolutions are discarded and forgotten often before the calendar turns from January to February. Resolutions are lost much quicker than the weight loss that seems to be the focus of many a January 1st proclamation of intention. For myself, I first encountered the one-word concept in 2016 in a Twitter chat when Bethany Hill, who was at the time an elementary principal from Arkansas, mentioned her one word for the new year. She shared how her one word that year, empower, would be a focus for her throughout the year. I wrote that year about using my daily run to ruminate and reflect on the concept of one word and to consider what my one word would be. I chose the word serve and kept the word and the concept at the forefront of my personal and professional life. With my 2016 one word and each one word that would follow in the years that followed, I could really have just kept that same word in perpetuity because the one word is always bigger than a single task or goal. It tends to be a perspective or focal point as I approach the various opportunities and challenges that appear along life's way. More recently, in 2021 and again in 2022, I chose words that reflected the times. Resilience in 2021 and forward in 2022. Each served me well. Ironically, I had no idea that forward would literally lead me forward in returning home to serve the school system I grew up in. My mind was set on retiring one day from the incredible school system I was serving on the Crystal Coast of North Carolina. That changed when family members began to tell me it was time to come home after one of my heroes, Dr. Tony Baldwin, announced his retirement. When considering personal or professional changes, I have and do actively seek God's will in my life. My wife Renee and I began to pray for God's will in our lives as we contemplated a move from the coast to the mountains. After leaving my hometown in Buncombe County over 20 years ago, I served in affluent communities and in communities with high levels of poverty. I served in very diverse communities and in communities with little obvious diversity. As a superintendent, my first opportunity for service over 8.5 years ago was in an amazing school system made up of 4 schools. My second superintendency pushed me to grow as a leader as I began to serve a school system with 20 schools. Returning home would mean accepting the challenge of serving 45 schools across a large and growing county. I had not thought that I would ever change jobs again. And yet, in November 2022, I found myself face to face with an incredible opportunity, an incredible challenge, and an incredible blessing. I returned home more experienced and hopefully wiser than when I left, but knowing that it was and is crucial for me to continue to grow as an educator and as a leader. Equally, knowing the personal sacrifices my family has made over the many years of my career, I know that I must continue to grow as a husband and as a father. In that moment, I selected my theme, and you may have seen it on my social media accounts, #Elevate, for my first school year of service back in my home school district. In this moment, I choose the same exact word as my one word for 2023, my #OneWord 2023. My one word this year is elevate. On November 1st, 2022, I posted a message on my personal Facebook page. I wrote, "Here we go. A new adventure awaits." With the memories of my own teachers and administrators and the difference they made in my life fresh in my mind, I'm excited to honor their legacy and the legacy of every teacher, staff member, administrator, and board member who has ever served in this school system. I know that I must elevate my performance, my commitment, my dedication, and my service. Despite the successes I may have had throughout my career, this is new and different, and I must continue to grow as an educator and as a leader. Holding fast to all that I've learned in the amazing school systems I've been blessed to serve in, I return home, ready to elevate my work, dedicated to each and every student and staff member. 2 months later, I remain excited and honored by this incredible opportunity and even more aware that I must continue to elevate my work. Elevating my work means doubling down on being fully present in each moment with students and teammates. It means recommitting to personal professional development through formal opportunities and through my own action research. It also means being the very best me I can be. The students and staff I serve deserve and are worthy of my very best, and I'm committed to giving them just that, my best. My #OneWord 2023, elevate, is bigger, though, than just an authentic commitment to continuous improvement for myself. I also want to elevate the profession I love. Reports of fewer education majors in our colleges and universities and of educators leaving the profession worry me. I know the difference that educators make in the lives of students and families. I know the difference they made in my life and in the lives of my children. We need amazing educators in every classroom and in every support position. Elevating the education profession is about sharing the difference that educators make every day and telling the stories of these amazing educators. It's also about ensuring that elected leaders at all levels know of the challenges faced by our educators and helping to bring about positive change in working conditions and increased salary and benefits for all educators. It's an honor to tell the story of the incredible men and women who dedicate their lives in service to others, and I'm committed to doing just that. Like every one word I have chosen over the last 8 years, elevate is multifaceted and will grow in application in my personal and professional life as the year progresses. I know it will. As I've considered its import, I've come to understand and commit to a third application point. I also want to elevate kindness everywhere I go. through example and modeling in every personal and professional encounter I have, to encouraging kindness as a goal for the institutions I serve, I intend to amplify and bear witness to the power of kindness in making the world a better place and in improving student outcomes. I cannot imagine an educator who cannot tell a story of a student who blossomed when treated with kindness. Being kind to students does not mean lowering standards or being soft on expectations. It means treating students and teammates with respect, with grace, and with understanding. Quite simply, the world needs more kindness. The next step is to begin consideration of application of my one word. Early on in my one-word journey, I was content to simply reflect on my one word and then commit to continuing to reflect on it as the year went along. I'm confident that I did not get the benefit from my one word that I might have. In recent years, I've really made an effort to move from being content to just hanging out in the adoption phase to purposefully and meaningfully moving into an implementation phase. Which brings me to 2023 and my selection of elevate as my one word. How do I elevate my work? How do I elevate our profession? How do I elevate kindness? On a recent run, I found myself pondering this question and found myself reminiscing back to a book I read many years ago, a book first published in 2001. In this information age, with writers suggesting that human knowledge is doubling every 2 years, what could a 22-year-old book possibly have to teach me or anyone else about elevating my work in 2023? Depending on the book, perhaps quite a bit. I'll let you judge for yourself the timeliness and timelessness of the book's lessons. The book I'm referring to is the book titled Good to Great, Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, by Jim Collins. For me, it's a touchstone text that continues to pop up in random discussions because of the power of the lessons. Perhaps one of the greatest takeaways from the book and one of the most repeated phrases that I have heard from others is Collins' assertion that good is the enemy of great. He surmised that few people manage to achieve greatness in their lives as they settle too quickly for a comfortable life. We can probably all name an ed leader who seemed destined for greatness, on the fast track to an ever-increasing responsibilities, who just seemed to fizzle out, or who reached a particular level and never moved beyond it. If we're not careful, and if we do not actively seek continuous improvement, we stagnate. I tend to be very generous with praise for the ed leaders I serve with, primarily because I hold them in such awe and because I do believe they are praiseworthy. I do worry sometimes, though, that if a teammate in the school system hears from the superintendent how well they are doing, they may believe they have arrived and stop working hard to improve. Now, for most, that's simply not going to happen. But for some, good is the enemy of great. They become good, and they become comfortable, and they never become great. They never maximize their skills and opportunity to make a deep and lasting difference in the lives of students. My hashtag OneWord 2023, Elevate, is my determination not to be comfortable. As one of the more experienced school superintendents in our state, I might be tempted to think that I have the answers and that I know how to be a great superintendent. I don't. I'm not satisfied. The students and team members I serve deserve the very best I can be, not the very best I have been. So, then, prepared to elevate, I turn to the 8 lessons in Good to Great. I call them lessons because I'm an educator and I learned from each. In the book, he refers to the 8 shared qualities they found in great companies as the factors that decide whether a company can become great. I will pause here to share that in a later monograph linked in the show notes at drrobjackson.com. Jim Collins wrote that schools should not strive to be more businesslike. He said, quote, We must reject the idea, well-intentioned but dead wrong, that the primary path to greatness in the social sectors is to become, quote, more like a business, end quote. For him, he continued on, quote, most businesses, like most of anything else in life, fall somewhere between mediocre and good. Few are great. When you compare great companies with good ones, he says, many widely practiced business norms turn out to correlate with mediocrity, not greatness. So then why would we want to import the practices of mediocrity into the social sectors, end quote. The point being that when we attempt to learn from other leaders in other areas like businesses, professional athletics, nonprofits, governments, etc., we're not trying to make education exactly like any of them because we have a different purpose and mission. We are, though, trying to tease out great practices that can help us grow as leaders. So then I turn back to Jim Collins' book and what he learned about great companies in his research. First, in each of the 11 great businesses he studied, he found level 5 leadership. A level 5 leader is an executive who creates an enduring legacy of greatness through a blend of humility and professional determination. Level 5 leaders are focused on the organization being successful rather than focusing on personal success. Level 5 leaders are humble, giving all of the credit to the team and accepting any and all blame for any mistakes made by the organization. They also ensure that the company is set up for long-term success that outlives the tenure of the current leader. The truth is that if a school or school district or a company falls apart after the principal, superintendent, or CEO leaves, then any previous success was on the short-term, person-dependent success of the previous leader rather than growth in the organization. Truly, to measure the difference a leader makes, you really need to check back in with the organization a year, 2 years, 5 years after they leave to see how the organization is doing. Jim Collins points out that level 5 leaders use self-reflection, personal mentors, teachers, coaches, and learning from significant life experiences to grow as leaders. The second factor, or in our world, lesson, is first who, then what? In the book, Collins writes that leaders of companies that made the transition from good to great, quote, said in essence, look, I don't really know where we should take this bus, but I know this much. If we get the right people on the bus, the right people in the right seats, and the wrong people off the bus, then we'll figure out how to take it someplace great, end quote. Good to great companies first get the right people on board before working out the vision of their company. This concept of getting the right people on the bus is absolutely crucial in our work in education. It is perhaps more difficult than ever to get the right people because of the talent pipeline issues that we're currently working through right now, but it's never been more important. When we have the right people, we don't need to micromanage them or encourage them to do a good job. It's ingrained within them. They believe in the school or school system because they believe in the value of their teammates. New leaders, particularly those new to a school or a school district, must learn about their new teammates to learn their strengths and areas of improvement. Often they find amazing teams ready to take off and do great things. Sometimes they find teams in need of improvement. Collins suggests a 3-step system for improving a team without resorting to mass firings. He says, when in doubt, don't hire. Keep looking. It's much more costly for a company to hire the wrong person in the long run than to delay the process and find the right person eventually. When it does become evident that a group or an individual is a bad match for the company, act quickly, he says, but not before assessing whether that group or individual would be better matched elsewhere within the team. And then he says, thirdly, allocate the best team members to the company's biggest opportunities, not its biggest problems, ensuring that you get the best out of your existing workforce. The third lesson in the book is to confront the brutal facts, but don't lose faith. A good to great company must hold tight to the belief that it can and will prevail against all odds, while also accepting the often brutal facts about the company's current reality. I strongly believe that a principal must be the school's greatest cheerleader, just as a superintendent must be the school district's greatest cheerleader. This cheerleading must be authentic and come from a deeply held belief that the school or district can and will succeed. The leader must truly believe that the team they serve has the capability and the capacity to improve student outcomes. At the same time, we must be informed by data. For quite a while, the in vogue jargon for educators was data-driven. Later, recognizing the multitude of factors going into our work, including the realities our students live in, we began to more appropriately use the term data-informed. Regardless of the terminology, we have to understand the data we have, and we have to use it to inform instructional decisions. While we know our own brutal facts, we can tease out the strategies that will work for our students. There are no silver bullets, no one-size-fits-all, no cure-all in education. Our students are individual and unique. Our schools are individual and unique. We have to understand our own uniqueness through knowing our data. Jim Collins writes that we must create a culture of truth. A culture of truth, he believes, adheres to the following 4 principles. 1, lead with questions, not answers. Asking questions is an excellent way of getting a better understanding of the truth. To ask questions also indicates that one is willing to be vulnerable enough to demonstrate that they do not have all of the answers. It's in this safe environment where reality-based problem solving can occur. 2, engage in dialogue and debate, not correction. Instead of just creating sham debates to make employees feel like they've all had their say, even if the CEOs have already chosen the course of action, genuinely let a team debate the issues to come up with some more informed solutions. 3, conduct autopsies without blame. In doing so, a culture in which the truth can be heard without fear of backlash can thrive. And finally, 4, build red flag mechanisms. This mechanism means entitling every member of the workforce to the right to be heard without judgment on any issue that may be concerning them, equipping them with a metaphorical red flag that they can raise any time. The 4th lesson in the book is not a new one to longtime listeners of the Ed Leader podcast. You may remember that Dr. Tanya Turner, superintendent in Perquimans County, has been on the podcast twice, and each time referenced the hedgehog concept. She was referring to this lesson in Good to Great. The hedgehog concept comes from Isaiah Berlin's essay, The Hedgehog and the Fox, which is based on an ancient Greek parable and in which he divides the world into 2 categories, hedgehogs and foxes. The fox knows a vast variety of different things, but the hedgehog knows one thing and knows it well. In talking with Dr. Turner, she discussed literacy as being the hedgehog concept in the school district she serves. Her high-performing district focuses on literacy. It's what they want to be best in the world at. It's what they want to be known for. In having a clear focus, the entire school district, from teachers across content areas and grade levels to student support personnel, know what is being focused on and direct their efforts in that direction. Great leaders lead their organizations to identifying the one thing that they know well, they focus on, and that they are passionate about. From this place of focus and passion comes the power to overcome complacency. The 5th lesson in the book is to create a culture of discipline. When we serve with a disciplined team, hierarchy becomes irrelevant. Teammates should not have to come to the leader for every decision, nor should there be an atmosphere of chaos with no rhyme or reason to decisions that are made. In education, every single member of the team should be seen as a leader with the freedom and flexibility to make decisions within an agreed-upon framework. Using the word discipline in a conversation of educators always worries me a bit because discipline can be a big part of an administrator's day. We have to be careful in considering this lesson to not conflate our tenets of student discipline with its layers of meaning and issues with Collins' concept of discipline, where team members have developed habits of thought, action, and speech towards reaching school and school system goals of improving student outcomes, improving efficiency, etc. When the hedgehog concept of the organization is known and zealously followed in a disciplined environment, great performance is achieved. The sixth factor on the road from good to great is the use of technology accelerators. There is no question that technology is an integral part of the work we do. Our work during the pandemic would have looked very different if students did not have individual digital learning devices like laptops, iPads, etc. We could not have operated the way we did without the internet, handing out hotspots, allowing access via cellular signals, being able to create Wi-Fi zones in school parking lots, and all of the many things we did using technology to allow students to learn away from school. That being said, there are also examples in each of our careers where an overzealous, hopefully well-meaning vendor attempted to sway an educator into purchasing the latest, greatest piece of technology or software with little regard for whether it was actually needed. Worse is when those purchases are made and then the shiny new object becomes a dust collector on a shelf in a classroom or a closet because it wasn't needed, wanted, or didn't really make a difference. Rather than fall victim to an impulse purchase, Collins recommends that the following be considered before selecting a new piece of technology. Does the piece of technology match the hedgehog concept? If yes, then the company needs to become a pioneer in the application of this technology. If no, then is it worthwhile using this technology at all? If not, then the technology is irrelevant. If our hedgehog concept is accelerating the academic growth of our students, then anything that does not help us achieve that goal is a waste of time and resources. If we're not careful, we become reactionary to new technological advancements. We become terrified of being left behind and therefore do everything we can to alter operations, to incorporate the latest pieces of technology, often leading us away from our mission and purpose. The seventh lesson is the flywheel effect and the doom loop. The biggest takeaway from the flywheel effect and the doom loop is that sustainable transformations follow a prolonged period of build-up before a lasting breakthrough can take place. There are no quick fixes. The good to great process doesn't happen overnight. Success comes after much focused attention is applied to moving a company in a single direction over a long period until a point of breakthrough is reached. In the book, Jim Collins asked the reader to imagine a 5,000-pound metal disc mounted horizontally on an axle. Initially, the heavy disc is extremely difficult to rotate. However, with subsequent pushes, it begins to pick up speed and becomes much easier to push as it flies forward with an almost unstoppable force. Getting to that moment took many pushes, all in the same direction over time. This flywheel effect is what occurs when leaders keep organizations focused on their hedgehog concept, working together, aligned in their efforts. The doom loop is employed by organizations or schools who try something, but who do not experience immediate success, give up, and go try something else. Over and over, they fall victim to the latest and greatest thing to come by, give it a try, and move on before there's any chance of making a real difference. Keeping the team spinning the same flywheel until it becomes that unstoppable force is achieved easier when the intermediate results are tracked, reported, and celebrated. These celebrations become motivators for teammates to keep going. The eighth and final lesson comes from a book that Collins actually wrote before Good to Great. The concept is From Good to Great to Built to Last. To ensure greatness endures, core values and purpose must underpin every decision. He recommends that leaders lean into the genius of and instead of falling victim to the tyranny of or. When possible, when confronted by either-or scenarios between two positive choices, great leaders will look for ways to incorporate both instead of simply choosing one. We can be built to last if we're ensuring that all we do is based on our core values and our hedgehog concept. Now, granted, the book is 22 years old and the concepts are not new. However, the process of simply reflecting on these timeless lessons as I consider my one word and my desire to elevate my work, elevate my profession, and elevate kindness wherever I go has been productive. I'm sure that I will find myself thinking through these lessons as the year progresses, probably out for a run somewhere where I do some of my best thinking. My friends, welcome to 2023, and Happy New Year. I'm excited about the coming year and all that it will bring. Neil Gaiman says, quote, "I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes, because then you are trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing your world. You're doing things you've never done before, and more importantly, you're doing something. I know that you are doing incredible things. I'd love to know your one word 2023 and want to extend a special invitation to you. If you'd like to share your one word through a blog post, I'd be honored to elevate your voice by sharing your post on my website. If you're interested, send me your thoughts and reflections on the one word you choose, and I'll share it with the world. Again, Happy New Year. May it be your best year ever. I hope that you enjoyed our time together. I am interested in your thoughts. Please keep sharing your feedback on Twitter at Dr._Rob_Jackson, through email, or by commenting directly on the show notes page. If you think it's been helpful, please share the episode in the podcast with your network of friends and colleagues. Thank you for spending time with me today, and thank you for all that you do for every student, every teacher, and every staff member. You are making a difference. If no one else has told you, I want you to know that I believe in you. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the Ed Leader Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and consider leaving a review with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so that we may continue to grow the Ed Leader community. We hope that you have enjoyed your time with Dr. Jackson. Until next time.